Mr. President, I'd like to take a moment just to describe to the American people, and actually members of both bodies of Congress, what's going to happen to our troops and their families if a collapse of budget negotiation forces the government to shut down. You know, we look at charts and graphs and numbers and all, but let's talk about the reality. Well, I'm sure many understand that most government services will halt. It's also important to understand some government operations will not shut down. In particular, our men and women on active duty and in the National Guard and Reserves will continue to serve, but they'll do so without pay. At a time when we ask them to fight 2 wars, to help stay the slaughter in Libya, to keep peace around the world, another burden is going to be added to their shoulders. They're going to be asked to do it without a paycheck. Now, some of those in our armed forces, many of them, do not have savings to fall back on in hard time. Many, a family member is overseas fighting for America, and their family is living back here paycheck to paycheck to pay for their groceries, to pay the car payments, or the bills for a sick child, or rent or a mortgage, or the other member of the family, the one who earns a paycheck, is over facing the possibility of dying on the field of battle. Now we tell them, oh, stay right out there and fight. By golly, we're proud of you fighting. Sorry we can't pay you. Sorry we can't pay you because members of Congress and the White House can't come together in a deal. We can't pay you. Gee whiz, you may not be able to, your family may not be able to buy groceries. Child may not get medical care, but boy, are we proud of you, and if you get killed, we'll give you a medal. Come on. Like many Americans, some of those who serve in our military do live paycheck to paycheck. They do depend on their pay each month to put food on the table and keep a roof over their families' heads. Certainly, mortgage lenders are not known for accepting excuses when the monthly payments come due. But excuses are all that some members of Congress can offer for why they will not come to the table and make sure our men and women in uniform get the pay they've earned. This is not bumper sticker sloganeering government. This is what really happens. It's so easy for people to stand up and just sanctimoniously state, oh, we're doing this for the good of the country. You're doing it and you're harming the families of our men and women in harm's way. Especially disturbing the hard times that now are in prospect for our troops have been completely avoidable. The possibility of a government shutdown is very real because a relative few are willing to play politics and brinksmanship at a time when the public wants basic, unadorned statesmanship. They want Republicans and Democrats to act as though they also have a stake in the course of our government. The American people want Congress to do its job. That's certainly not too much to ask. Those who are insisting on their way or no way should pause to reflect on what their intransigence means to our troops and their families, in fact, every American. The decision to put politics ahead of the American people is reckless and imposes real hardship on real people. It is crueler still, knowing some of our troops already facing fears of death or injury. Sleepless nights and forward operating bases must now add paying the electric bill and feeding their families to their list of daily worries. I've been with some of those troops in Iraq and Afghanistan. They have enough on their mind. They have enough that they face every single hour of every single day, and especially every single night, to not have the added worry, will our families be able to pay their bills? And I worry, as co-chair of the National Guard Caucus, I worry especially for the Vermont National Guard troops who are currently forward deployed to locations around the world. Many of them come from their small towns and cities of Vermont. They face these very fears. And shutting down the government, an ideologically motivated faction in Congress is willing to breach our most fundamental pact with these men and women. We have always said, protect our nations overseas and we'll protect your loved ones at home. Who can justify violating that pact with the men and women in uniform? Some in Congress are already seeking cover, claiming they put forward plans to fund the Pentagon and our troops. But of course, even these transparent political ploys will not pay many of our intelligence personnel, our brave and dedicated forward deployed consular staff and officers and others, many of whom work side by side with our troops. Not to mention the vast number of individuals working in communities across the nation to support our overseas operations. Every one of these dedicated public servants, every one of our troops, deserves to be paid for a day's work. Our troops and their families, and those supporting our troops and their families, have enough to worry about without needlessly being pushed to the brink of a costly government shutdown.